Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another prediction speculation for Andor. This week we're talking about episode 10. We have 3 episodes of the show left in season 1, so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and it looks like it's going to be an action-packed episode 10 next week. So we're going to dive into all the details here, but before we do so, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel for continued content from Star Wars Lads. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're on the road to 1,000 subs, so subscriptions are the best way to show us that you enjoy our content and want to see more from our channel. Helps us continue to produce great content for all of you. So please subscribe, and then also comment below. Let us know what you think is going to happen next week in the next episode of Andor. If you haven't checked out our review, we posted our review for episode 9 on Wednesday, and we also have a review up for Tales of the Jedi if you are interested in checking out our review for that show as well. So let's dive into Andor episode 10. As usual with this show, there's 3 main arcs, so we will touch on all of them, but the most interesting and probably the one that will lead most of next episode, since it's been built to it, is going to be the prison break. So we are going to most likely get some form of prison break in Andor episode 10. We've seen it in the trailers. It's been built up for the last 2 episodes. Sanak, what do you think our prison break is going to look like next episode?
I think there would be a little bit more of a highlighted focus on what Cassian has already been doing. We've already seen him discuss with some other guy who's thinking about getting out himself, like how the use platforms work. We've seen him shave and file down some sort of cylinder in the restroom or something. So he's been doing things, but the difference was he's been doing those things and like trying to reach to Kino, like tell me what's going on, give me a little bit more information. He'll be gone soon. Like I'll be here for like another 2, 3 years. Like help me out here, and I can make this shorter for all of us essentially. And Kino was so reluctant, and now he's giving information. So I'd like to see in this episode a lot more of Kino like covering for Andor, like we said in the review. I like to see him also correct some things because I think Andor, as good as Cassian is at what he does, of escaping assassinations, machinations of all kind, it always helps to have the top guy there who knows everything in and out. I'd love to see Cassian assume this leadership role, but really he's one of the 2 heads, right? Kino's kind of more of like the cover. He doesn't seem like he's affiliated. He keeps on acting like he's the same guy as always, but he lets Cassian, he recruits guys like Melshi and all that behind the scenes for Cassian. I'd like to see him not be so worried about if they're listening at this point. I think at this point he might just completely just start like feeding him during lunch breaks, during shifts, come over, give him more information, just whatever is needed, right? So it'll all be very interesting to see how Cassian and Kino play together. I don't know if we're necessarily need to worry about or care about whoever comes to replace Olaf. Um, but it would be nice if it's someone else from Rogue One, maybe the guy who says Carabas, so we get some little bit of alien representation. But I don't know exactly how they're gonna make this prison breakout like successful across all areas. Like, is it just gonna be their unit, or are they gonna be using their hand communication, sign language, and communicate with whoever else is out there? Like, okay, this is what we're doing. We figure out all these things. Let us know if the same for you is different. I don't know. I could see something being like a full widespread thing, but the risk does come that we've just heard that 100 people were fried. So if one person messes up on the other place, that speeds up the timeline for another unit, and then in that case, someone gets you know knocked out, fried. 100 people get fried. I don't know. I'd see a lot of this unit that the team of Cassian also being killed off. I don't really see many of them becoming rebels or even wanting to necessarily. I don't know. Like we've only seen the hallways. We've really seen nothing else other than like barracks too. So I wonder just how much they're going to be unprepared for too. So I'd love to see if how much Kino is also not knowing about because he's been there for so long, but how much he knows might have been purposely withheld. It'll be pretty curious there. But yeah, I'm very excited for what's next.
Me too, and I think they've held the cards so close to their chest, the writers here and Tony Gilroy, the way they've crafted these last two episodes, especially, haven't really left us too many clues to really the extent of how this thing will work. Even like you referenced here, this episode, we have a lot of things being put in motion, but we don't really know what any of it means or what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing. And also just the fact that they can turn on this floor and kill all of them instantly, no matter what. How are they possibly going to break out without everyone dying? Even if like 3 or 4 get on that lift and it's not electrified, so they're trapped on this lift, they're stuck. Like there's got to be more to this plan besides that, or some blind hope. Rebellions are built on hope, but not that bad of odds. So I'm interested to see the further fleshing out of this plan. How does it unfold? I called the old man dying last week. I'm calling a death for poor Kino this next week. I think it makes sense for the thematic elements of the show. Somebody who is trying to walk the line, even though he is experiencing the hardships of the empire, but just has that glimmer of hope that he just has to make it through and do what he's told, and he'll get out and be free again. Now that you see that all shatter, it seems like a great opportunity to kill a character, to show Cassian the further brutality of the Empire, give him something to attach to, somebody who's been living with for a while now, gotten attached to, gets a whole plan in motion. So they are basically one brain trust, and losing a member of his probably first ever real team that he considers important brothers in arms. Like, he was forced into the Aldani mission, didn't really ever connect with any of those people. And now he's in this thing where he's relying on everyone to do his job, where he was still kind of a rogue on Aldani. Here, he can't do it without it going flawlessly. I love that idea though of this prison just having so many different aspects to it. Maybe it's not just a prison. They do other things here. There could be so many different horrific things that are going on this raft out in the middle of the water. How do these inmates navigate that? How do they even know how to get back to the surface? And when they do, they're stuck on the middle of the water. How are they going to escape? They're going to have to steal a ship of some kind, or a boat or something. And if they steal a boat, they got to get to a ship. So there's so many facets to this plan that we haven't even touched on. Hopefully, next episode touches on them, but doesn't really bog us down with that. And we get to see more of the action and the suspense. I'm looking forward to it. I think Prison's Break in Star Wars is something we haven't seen that often, really. It's going to be pretty cool. I think that's going to dominate the episode and be one of the most exciting parts. So, following up on that, though, is ultimately going to be the reaction from the ISB. So, we can start there and talk about, now that they've kind of not left Ferrex, but they've gotten pretty much all the information out of Ferrex that they can. They're monitoring Marva for Cassian return. They're basically using Ferrex as bait now for eventually Cassian's return, but they still don't know they have Cassian. I am very interested in Dedra's reaction when she finds out they had Cassian and now he's gone again. What's going to happen with this ISB angle? So, like, what are your thoughts on where we're going with the ISB and Cyril, I guess, too, in this next episode?
I'll focus on Dead or on the ISP stuff. I think no matter what, this episode has to lay the foundation for some sort of revolt or full climactic action that these last two episodes are focusing on Ferrex. I think a big swing would be to kill Bix. I don't think that's something that'll happen. I could see Bix be let free and then be succumbing to some poison or some disease. I could see a lot of these characters that we were very much introduced to at the beginning dying. I could see Brasso die in like a firefight, and all of this will be preceded by the realization that hey, Andor was out there, and all of this that like we've got all these things connected, and just as we're about to hold on to him, we finally figure out he's on this prison. By the time you get there, he's gone. The whole prison complex is destroyed and whatever. And so maybe this is where, as she finds out about Andor, she also finds out who Axis is. And she's trying to string these all together, but then cord is cut because Cassian has been able to escape, destroy this prison complex. At this moment, for the escape that you were talking about on whatever this prison planet is, Maybe that's where we see the laser ships on both sides of um, Luthen's ship coming in, and maybe he's the guy who breaks them out because he's been saying too much that this is a loose end, this is a loose end. And what better way of finding out where he is than going to be his pickup and then proceed to try to kill him because this is the loose end that he's been talking about. Obviously, failing to do so, and what will come out of that. And maybe that exchange somewhere in there at that point in time, maybe Dedrick sees him, something goes on. It's either a visual confirmation or some information confirmation about who Luthen really is. It'll all be very interesting there. But I think no matter what, the ISB stuff from Dedra's point of view has to start being like transition into Ferrix. There's no more like catching up to Andor. It's all about luring him in and probably the most cruel way that you can think of. And maybe that's where Cyril comes, because maybe Cyril knows a little bit more about Ferrix and the people there, what will really affect Cassian and cause him to come be lured out so dramatically. I could see Cyril be used as like an off the book sort of guy for Dedra, who she like plays up some like sort of like feminine wiles that he's been imagining. She plays into that image that he's been creating for himself with this closeness, that an intimacy that he's been somehow been forcing himself to dreaming about. And she's like, okay, what do you know about Ferrix? Oh, do this. Can you bring this out? Assassinate someone? Do something crazy that I'm not gonna like actually be connected to. It's all off books because I trust you, and you're my most reliable agent, and you're the only person I can believe in. Cyril, do this, do that, cause this dangerous rebel to appear where we need him to be. I think that's how we'll see Cyril be re-entered into all this stuff after she finds out about Luthen and Cassian's breakout. It's the storyline that I think is the most potent because it is what's setting us up for the season finale. My only worry is that there's so much unknown about the Cassian breakout. Just how much are they going to fit into this final episode? How much is going to be kind of chopped away? Is this going to be a longer episode? I don't know, but these two are so potent, especially with build up for this storyline. I'm not really sure how they're going to pace it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think similar to how we saw the Aldani heist, I really think this episode could be like 90% from start to basically last 5 minutes Cassian prison break. And then when they find out there's a prison break going on, they've got footage of one of the inmates and it's Cassian. And she's like, uh-oh, now there's the guy we were looking for. He was already in prison under a different name. Now he's here. I have to go get him. That could be kind of our tag, just kind of how like in the heist episode, we pretty much only focused on the heist. And then in the final scene, we've got everybody kind of briefly realizing what just happened between Mon Mothma and the Senate and between Luthen hearing it and reacting. And I think it could very well be all that. And then episode 11 is kind of our build up towards Ferrix and recruiting Cyril and doing all that. I think that's probably where we're going to go. I hope that's kind of where we go because next episode is going to be an exciting one. They've pretty much saved the action for every third episode. So hopefully this is an action-packed, exciting, really finale-like episode for this arc. And then when we let this show breathe again in the penultimate episode, we can tie all those loose ends in. But I do agree. I think Cyril could be very much used as an operative outside of the ISB. We've seen in all the best kind of spy, government spy, CIA, they always have people who are working for them who are not affiliated, right? So I think that's an interesting angle to go with Cyril, be that guy on Ferrix undercover. Does really anybody on Ferrix actually even know him? Not really. He kind of was just a guy who's there. So I think he could blend in despite being kind of completely different temperament and personality than all of them. He could just still be a person there. He doesn't need to be an Imperial and he's not somebody they could recognize. I think they could go with that route for sure. And Luthen is going to be the most interesting thing to tie back in. And I think we should talk about Luthen and Mon Mothma here too. The role that we see Mon Mothma having. Do you see her having a role really outside of this conversation with this crime lord banker that she's going to be meeting?
I could totally just see them having separate storylines. They don't always have to work together. I mean, this is a guy that we know Luthen is very good at moving around arms and antiques and presumably money as well. And maybe he's supportive of Mon Mothma going this direction, and that's what flabbergasts her. Like, yes, finally, you have the conviction to do something. Or maybe he's kind of shocked that, like, we've both been playing our roles. You're kind of like the goody two shoes, doing things undercover, and I'm the guy who plays two different parts that never have to be blended together. And maybe instead of being supported, maybe he's like, wow, now she's doing all these things. Like, maybe it's time for me to evolve, take these steps. We've been talking about vulnerability and all that, but screw it. I have to stop being that coward. I think that could be some very interesting thematic thing that he's playing, putting on all these masks, but he's never been unveiling who he truly is. He never lets these personalities blend together. I don't know. I think we've been like avoiding him so much in a lot of these episodes since episode 3, essentially, that he's been like a guy like probing, but for him to do that all out action, maybe it is this interaction, it is this relationship with Mon Mothma as it's evolving that forces him to do something. Maybe it's just that he can't let himself, let himself have Cassian die unless he has him in his hand and he can kill himself and obviously fail to do so. There's a lot of reasons that you could be throwing out there, but I don't know. Luthen is very, very interesting, and we just don't know about it so much about him because he keeps everything hidden, even in the scenes that he has.
I don't really see a role for Mon Mothma in the next episode. Maybe we get person, this banker, this crime lord is related to either Luthen or somebody else involved with the main plot. Maybe she's in this next episode, but I could very well see them just taking an episode off from Mon Mothma and her not really having any type of role in this. I think with Luthen, we do talk about at the end of last episode or episode 9 the pilot that's captured who is related to the other rebel that Luthen was trying to set Saw up with for that man's mission. So whether Luthen is really involved with this other rebel's mission is not really certain. Whether he actually has an active involvement in it or just wants to see it succeed because he wants to see these missions succeed and he's familiar with Saw and he's familiar with other rebellion leaders in their little rebel groups. It's not really clear, but if he does have involvement with that and it goes wrong because the ISB are already on to them and they're about to stop it, I don't think that's going to be a key center focus of next episode because we have not seen any of those characters. So we're not going to introduce all these new rebels and this new thing that's going to go on. It's been a background detail in every episode that's just mentioned so far. So when that plan ultimately does not go right, it's going to be just mentioned, but maybe we get a cut to Luthen there while it's going down and we see his POV and he escapes while these rebels are killed. And that ties us back into Cassian. Maybe he does intercept Cassian somehow and he goes and picks him up, or they do steal a ship and get out into space and he finds Cassian or intercepts a transmission or something. I do think Lucian, Luthen and Cassian will be tied back together by the end of this episode. It's just a matter of how and where Luthen is in the process of getting there. I think that's kind of the most intriguing thing. We've seen Luthen go off on his own in episode 8, but I do think they end up meeting back up. It's a twist of fate. They're kind of destined to be together. And ultimately, I think they're destined to be together throughout most of the show. I think Luthen is going to die pretty close to Rogue One. I think he's going to make it for a while. I think he's going to be one of those characters that is one of those early pillars of the rebellion and ultimately ends up getting killed, and kind of one of the reasons why there's very little hope with that council as we get into Rogue One. But they're also going to need to give us a darn good reason why he's not in Rebels, but neither was Cassian, so we can have them off doing their own thing somewhere else. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for episode 10, predictions, speculations. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please like the video down below and comment below. Let us know what you think is going to happen in episode 10. You guys have been giving us some really in-depth thoughts here for your predictions, and we enjoy them. As you can tell, we like to speculate about what's coming with these shows. If you haven't yet and you're watching this video, please subscribe. It will really, really help us out. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. If you haven't checked out some of the other videos, like I said, we posted our review of Andor episode 9 on Wednesday. We always post our reviews the same day the episodes are released. We also posted a review of Death Troopers for our Legends Book Club that tied into our Halloween month of October. And then we posted a review for Tales of the Jedi last week if you want to check out our thoughts on the latest animated Star Wars series. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.